Hello! Good morning, everybody. I hope you are all doing well whenever or wherever you're hearing this. I can't believe it's almost already a week into September. Normally, I would dread going into these colder months. However, this year, it's more anticipation, having never experienced a Washington winter. Also, I got a new rolling chair, so it doesn't squeak, but forgive me if I run into the wall. And I also rearranged a little bit, so if it sounds weird, we'll figure it out. So normally I try to cover cases that aren't already done to high heaven, for lack of a better term. And I know this case has been covered many times, maybe most notably on, Crime Junkie. And recently Netflix just had a episode on a true crime docuseries featuring this. But I cannot stop thinking about it. This is the murder of Maribel Ramos. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come mainly from an All That's Interesting article by Amber Morgan, a Ranker.com article, and a CBS article. We've all been rejected before, some of us more often than not. But the thing about me, my friend Andy, and most decent human beings, we move on. We take the loss and learn from it. But some won't, or simply can't. In May of 2013, when 36-year-old Maribel Ramos failed to show up at yet another scheduled event, this time a softball game, friends and family knew something was wrong. Maribel, born on November 22nd of 1976, had always been known as kind, compassionate, and caring. As a child, her family said she called herself a tomboy and had dreams of working with law enforcement one day. Following that dream, as a high schooler, she took a security guard position before graduating and joining the Army in August of 2001. Subsequently, Maribel was sent overseas and completed two tours in Iraq before her honorable discharge in 2008. Quote, back in the U.S., Maribel decided to attend California State University of Fullerton to study criminal justice, still following her dream as an adult. She moved into an apartment with her mother in Orange, California, and lived there until her mother died in 2009. With the apartment to herself, Maribel reached out to her sister, Lucy Gonzalez, to see if she would move in. Unfortunately, Lucy turned her down, explaining that she and her daughter were already settled where they were, but that they would move in if Ramos couldn't find a roommate, end quote. So instead, Lucy decided to help her sister out in the hunt for somebody to live with her. They created an ad and posted it on Craigslist, hoping to find someone likable. After a frustrating amount of suspicious inquiries, a man named Kwong Choi, aka KC Choi, reached out to Maribel. He told these two women that he was easygoing and just looking for a place to stay while he was hunting for jobs. The three decided to meet up, and both sisters believed him to be a, quote, quiet, well-mannered man. KC Joy also told them that he had never been married and had no kids, which enticed Maribel as she was hoping for a quiet, stable roommate. And so it was decided. KC Joy gathered his belongings and moved in with Maribel. It was clear from the beginning that KC truly didn't have anyone in his life, and his loneliness was palpable. Constantly by himself, hardly ever leaving the apartment. Quote, before long, Maribel started inviting KC to these family events, and as he accompanied her to these dinners, games, and parties, he got to know most of her family. Gradually, Maribel's relationship with Joy morphed into a friendship, rather than just roommates. The two regularly walked their dogs and went on grocery runs together, end quote. It seemed like a perfect situation. Until Joy wanted more. In the summer of 2012, Joy called Maribel's sister Lucy and confessed his love for Maribel, claiming that he wanted to marry her and start a family. As politely as possible, Lucy said that Maribel wasn't attracted to him in that way, and she wasn't interested. When Maribel found out, she even reportedly spoke to Joy to make it clear that she didn't want a relationship like that. And Joy seemingly took it well, at first. But before long, Casey Joy started behaving erratically, compared to how he did before at least. Buying cruise tickets for him and Maribel, buying a whole new wardrobe, new tattoos, and allegedly spending $10,000 on plastic surgery so that he could look younger. He was doing way too much, and it was slowly becoming clear that Casey's relationship with Maribel was now more obsessive than amicable. That is why on May 3rd of 2013, when Maribel didn't show up to that softball game, people knew something was off. Quote, family and friends tried contacting her several times, but no one could get a hold of her. Her family even went to her apartment for a wellness check, only to discover that she wasn't there. And when unable to find her, they reported her missing. Authorities immediately began investigating Maribel's case. Thankfully, they didn't wait 48 hours or say she's an adult, she's fine. So surveillance footage from 7:15 p.m. the evening before her disappearance, May 2nd, showed Maribel dropping off her rent check, and it was the last time she was seen in public, end quote. As investigators interviewed Maribel's family, friends, and even men that she had gone on dates with, one name kept coming up over and over and over. Casey Joy. Police needed to talk with Joy. He cooperated with investigators and claimed he last saw Maribel the evening of May 2nd. They got into a heated argument before Joy allegedly stormed off and went for a drive to calm down. Upon his return, Maribel was nowhere to be seen. Without any evidence to link Joy to Maribel's disappearance, or even Maribel herself, there was a lot of work to do. And while diving into her recent history, police learned that Maribel had placed a 911 call only 12 days before she went missing, on April 20th or so. Quote, in the call, Maribel claimed to feel unsafe around her roommate, saying, I'm just calling to let you guys know that if something happens, I did it because I was trying to defend myself, end quote. According to All That's Interesting, police then learned Maribel had told Joy he had to find a new place to live by the end of April. He had stopped paying his expenses and in recent weeks made up several ridiculous excuses as to why he couldn't or wouldn't leave her apartment. This dispute is what allegedly led to the argument on the evening of May 2nd, when Maribel told him that he had to leave immediately, and Joy refused. Feeling desperate, Maribel then reaches out to a man she had been seeing asking for help. They had met on, I believe, the Plenty of Fish dating site. He said if Joy didn't move his things out, then he would do it for him. And that was the last phone call made from Maribel's phone. In their gut, police knew that this Casey Joy had more information than he was giving law enforcement. And given this knowledge of their not-so-perfect relationship, investigators zeroed in. The more they dug, the more they learned of a dark past. Joy had a recorded history of anger issues and violence. Ironic. So much so that his own sister issued a restraining order against him. He was a loner for a reason. As investigators studied Joy closely, they noticed odd behavior in the days following Maribel's disappearance. According to one article, Joy was spending a lot of time online, commenting on online forums related to Maribel's case to declare how much he missed his friend. But despite his attempts to appear the grieving roommate online, Joy had strangely started distancing himself from Maribel's family that he had previously called friends. He also refused to participate in most of the vigils and searches for Maribel. One of those forums that he was posting to is Yelp, of all places. And these are only two of the many incongruent comments that he posted online. Quote, I am Maribel's roommate. She's my BFF and my only family. She's absolutely the best woman I ever met. We had so much fun together. I miss her so much. She always knew that I will give my life for her without any hesitation. And then on the next post he says, quote, Police forensic teams searched this 2-bedroom apartment 5 times with a police dog. They confiscated computer, hard drive, cell phone, car, and took several items. They contacted everyone on my phone list, and I don't know when I will get my properties back. These are major inconveniences, but all these don't matter. I miss Maribel. That makes me really depressed and stressed out, big time." End quote. Now, English isn't this man's first language, and we won't fault him for that. But a few things do stand out. In both, but the first post especially, it's all about him. I, when it should be all about Maribel. Who cares if this is an inconvenience for you? You'll get your properties back when you get them back. And 2, is this like a plea to gain sympathy or something online? Talking about his sadness and his stressful situation when Maribel is in the most stressful situation? What's the purpose here? I just don't get it. Soon, however, Casey Joy makes a series of wild mistakes. Investigators learn that he's been making frequent trips to the public library following Maribel's disappearance. But it's what he's doing at the library that raises the alarm. Joy's using the computers to obsessively research Maribel's case, and he also made a few suspicious searches along the lines of, quote, "How long does it take a body to decompose?" Now, why would he be Googling this while Maribel was still considered missing and, I assume, presumed alive? Then, quote, 2 weeks after Maribel disappeared, authorities watched as Casey Joy opened Google Maps and zoomed in on a single tree in a remote canyon. Joy deleted his browser history after the session, but not before police made note of the tree's location. They immediately dispatched a search party to this canyon, and after only about 30 minutes of looking, officers discovered the decomposing body of Maribel Ramos buried in a shallow grave near the very tree Joy had pinpointed. Finally, the search for the missing veteran had come to an end, and Joy, he knew the police were closing in on him. On May 17th, 15 days after Maribel was last seen alive, police arrived at her residence to arrest Casey Joy. When he saw the squad car screech to a halt outside, Joy attempted to flee by jumping out of a back window, but was quickly apprehended. Subsequently, he was charged with the murder of Maribel Ramos. Although it may seem like a clear-cut case to us, legally it was a bit tricky. Her remains were too decomposed to determine a cause of death, so prosecutors and authorities were left to speculate. As stated in the All That's Interesting article, given that Maribel had combat training and could have easily overtaken Joy in a fair fight, they hypothesized that Joy must have ambushed her. Investigators suggested he snuck into her room in the middle of the night and smothered her in her sleep. There was very little forensic evidence tying Joy to the crime. However, during his trial, the jury heard how Joy had become obsessed with Maribel, and how she had called the police to report that she was afraid of him, and how Joy had pinpointed the exact site of her burial on Google Maps. The jury came to their verdict in July of 2014 and found Casey Joy guilty of Maribel's murder and sentenced him to 15 years to life. To this day, oddly enough, Casey claims his innocence, but nobody believes him. And that, my friends, is the tragic story of Maribel Ramos. That guy needed therapy big time. I mean, you got rejected by one girl that we know of. Oof, man, I'd be up to like a lot of murders. As always, I hope you folks enjoyed the story. Thank you for hanging out today. If you'd like, stick around after the music, as always, for a bonus Brew Brime story. A bonus True Crime story. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Ooh, alrighty. This story is a tough one, heads up, but it has a happy ending. Titled, Man Accused of Holding Woman Captive in Poland for Over 5 Years. This is from CBS News. Quote, prosecutors in southwest Poland say a man has been arrested on allegations of imprisoning and physically and mentally abusing a woman for more than 5 years with, quote, special cruelty. Prosecutors in the town of Legnica say the abuse started in January of 2019 and lasted until last week in the village of Gajki near Głogów. And forgive my pronunciations, people of Poland. They only identify the suspect as 35-year-old Mateusz J. Mateusz J. in line with Poland's privacy laws. They say the woman, who is now 30, was held in an unheated building with no water or toilet facilities. There, he repeatedly abused her sexually and physically and gave her limited access to food or water. They say he oh my gosh, what the heck? They say he humiliated and controlled the woman, kept her in isolation, and brought her out only with a hood over her eyes. Local news outlets in Głogów say he held the woman in a shed at his family farm. So it wasn't really a building, it was a shed. His elderly parents reportedly told local news that they were not aware of the situation. According to My Głogów, the victim was reportedly impregnated by Mateusz J. and taken to a hospital to give birth and then gave the baby up for adoption. Quote, I couldn't tell the doctors the truth. I was afraid. And he threatened me that if I complained, it would get even worse, the victim said, according to the outlet. The man was finally arrested after he brought the woman to the hospital on Tuesday for treatment of a dislocated shoulder, of which I assume he caused. At the hospital, the woman alerted the staff to her situation. The man has been questioned and denies any wrongdoing, prosecutors say. If convicted, he could face up to 25 years in prison. This case evokes that of Josef Fritzl, an Austrian man, or Joseph, who kept his daughter captive for over 20 years and raped her thousands of times, fathering 7 children with her. Earlier this year, a court ruled that Fritzl could be moved from a psychiatric detention center to a regular prison. End quote. Damn. First of all, 5 years would feel like a lifetime. What a strong soul and body she must have. Props to her. And second, those elderly parents say that they had no idea what was going on. You're saying that for 5 years you never went into the shed on your property or questioned why your 35-year-old adult son was going out there probably daily and spending hours inside of this shed, just making a bunch of noise in there. She never screamed once for 5 years, not even right away. I don't know. It's hard to believe. Well, I think that'll about do it today, folks. Sorry to end on such a raw note. Thank you all once again for taking the time to listen in today. Truly do appreciate it. If you have a second to leave a review, I'll love you forever. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you.